Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to this YouTube video. And so in today's training, I'm going to be covering with you guys exactly the mental model that has allowed a lot of my clients to, make multiple six figures, even under $500,000 in car sales in a year, right? So wrapping up last year of 2023, I worked with over a couple hundred salesmen all over the United States, and I've had some reoccurring themes as to what clients are successful when it comes to actually being able to make you know multiple six figures in the industry, right? And so the only proof that you really need is just go check out some of the other videos on my YouTube channel. I have in-depth interviews with some of my top clients, breaking down exactly what their situation was like, how they were able to make so much money with me, and the systems and processes that we used. Okay, so just to go over exactly what the mental model is called, I coined the term the dealership arbitrage model. So what is the dealership arbitrage model? Okay, so fundamentally you have to think about car sales as one thing that really stands out. Okay, so the fact of the matter is that as a car sales professional, everyone in the industry always says, you're your own business, but what ends up happening after, a year or two, maybe even a few years into the business, most people at some point run into what we call a ceiling, right? So the ceiling, after, speaking with hundreds of sales professionals, is just like, bro, eventually you just kind of have a shit quality of life. And this is, just the reality of the situation. You end up not being able to make as much money as you want to make, right? You end up being stuck somewhere between 5 to 10K a month, right? Somewhere in between there. The only way that you're growing is just through, growing your customer base, which is through referrals and repeats. And it takes you years, even decades, to build up your client portfolio. And the only other way that you can make even more money, but at the sacrifice of more responsibility, more headaches, is, moving up your dealership's management system, right? So that just kind of becomes the reality where you're like, well, shit, dude, I don't really know what else to go from here. And if you guys are like most people who start off in the car business, you don't really have a real, background or a real education or anything like that, or traditional education. I certainly don't. I'm a self-made entrepreneur. If you've been following my journey, you know that. But long story short, right, it's like you run into this bottleneck, and the only people that you guys start to see and look around in the business are people that have been what I call in the business for a very long time, 10, 20, 30 years, where they finally have that repeat and referral business, and they stayed at the same exact dealership in order to, get to that maybe even 250, 300K a year. But nowadays with, technology and all the things that are available out there, and, being able to grow a business, you can actually fast track and get your way to, that $250,000 to $1 million a year, $500,000 a year in terms of sales, all by building out your own business. So you have to understand, as a car sales professional, there's a few things that, kind of roll into your position. And car sales is what I call a level 10 earning opportunity, right? And essentially what you're doing as a car sales professional is you have your own business with absolutely zero of the risk, right? The reason why people get stuck, though, is because you operate like a sales professional. You look at your career as if it's a job, right? So that's the problem. You're looking at your job, you're looking at your career as a job. You clock in, you clock out, you take the ups, and you follow the schedule that they give to you. And you're not necessarily able to break out of what we call the matrix of being in the rat race, because technically you're just a highly paid employee when you operate like that. So how do you take that to the next level? So with you being in a level 10 earning opportunity, the sky's the limit, right? This is why people get into sales. This is why people love sales. There's no earning cap. But what the cap becomes when you're in car sales is the limitation of your dealership system, right? Because I've seen some of the best closers go from one dealership to another dealership, who was making a bunch of money at one dealership, and the next dealership they're making a fraction of what they're originally making. So the nuance here is, okay, it's not necessarily the person, but the system they grow. It's like this, where it's you'll only grow up to the limitations of what's given to you. So with that being the case, like if you're only like if the cap's making 100 grand a year, guess what? You're only gonna make 100 grand a year as a sales professional at that specific business. But if you go to 250 or quarter million job position at a different dealership, then cool, that's your cap, right? So you can kind of start thinking about it like that. However, how being able to break past that thought process is being able to look at the business differently, okay? And so like this is what I've been able to pride myself with, is looking at the business from a different perspective that allows people to actually grow and scale their own company. So essentially with the dealership arbitrage model, the dealership owner takes on all of the risk of buying the lot, having the inventory, having millions of dollars of debt taken on, right? They have the facility, they have the employees, the service drive, the the parts department, HR. They have acquisitions. They have to buy inventory, and there's just a ton of risk involved, right? They have to get the bank associations. There's so many things that are involved with opening and running a dealership. But you have the luxury as a sales professional to just come in here, make sales, and use their business as the backbone of your own business. So this is what I call dealership arbitrage, because you're basically using their business to go build and scale your own company within it, okay? So if you're a sales professional, there's a few things that make you money, right? There's only a few things. Like this is the only thing you have to worry about is, number one, getting a client, right? Or getting a lead. Number two, getting that lead to show up. Number three is selling that lead, right? And number four is retaining and getting that client to give you a referral. So that's kind of the whole name of the game of the business, because what happens is, because you only know how to sell, you're not getting new opportunities through the door, and you're not growing your database as quickly as you could grow it. Because like in that analogy that I gave you guys earlier, if you're a car salesman that has sold for 10, 20, 30 years, you finally built up the customer base, but that took you freaking 10, 20, 30 years, right? But the nuance here is, like, let's say if you sell like 100 cars a year, like just to make it an easy round number, it would take you 10 years to have 1,000 people in your database. So you can start to see that would take you a very long time to even get to a significant amount and a number. So how do you force feed that, right? So with the dealership arbitrage model, because you're now thinking about it from a perspective like, okay, I'm my own business and I have to self-develop and I have to be able to grow. So a lot of the missing pieces that the salesman is missing is a lead system to get consistent lead flow through the door, and then three is actually being able to own their own data, right? And the other thing is actually being able to retain the clients that they have and build their customer base more quickly, okay? So with an actual lead system, right, what we've been able to help our clients build is like a digital lead system, right, using Facebook ads. And if you guys go through my channel, you guys will see a lot more of the breakdown on how we use social media in depth to actually be able to generate these opportunities. So with that in mind, what we do is we help them set up their lead generation system, right, using ads, using content to attract the right type of person in through the door. Because anybody and everybody could just go throw up an ad, right? Any schmuck could do that, right? But it takes an actual level to actually understand your market and how to speak to the right people to get qualified people in through the door. And so what you'll understand, and your situation is very nuanced. Depending on the dealership that you're at, you have a different demographic that you're going to try and like target. So it's not just being able to put up an ad. You have to know how to actually be able to be able to get that opportunity and speak to the right person. So the messaging is extremely important. And then once you have the messaging dialed in, it's putting together an amazing ad that gets people to click on it. And then once they're able to click on it, being able to convert that person into an actual shown appointment, right? So having that system dialed in where, let's say, for example, you spend $1,000 on advertising and that nets you back 100 leads. From that 100 leads, you get 10 deals. Let's say you average about $500 per sale. then you're making about 5x return. So then you have a predictable lead acquisition system. So now that you have that, you have a scalable part of your business where you're no longer reliant on the dealership, right? And so what happens is, because you're reliant on the dealership, you're only able to, you only get what they give you. So it's not in your control. So you have to be able to separate yourself and control your own traffic source. That's number one. Number two is actually owning the data, okay? So the problem is with being in the business long term, and if you're watching this and you've been in the business for a while, or you've switched dealerships, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The problem that you'll run into is, because you're in the business for a while, let's say you go from working from a CDJR, right? And you work there for like 3, 4, or 5 years. And you finally built up the client base, the clientele, and you have some repeats, you have some referrals, you're starting to get your name out there, you're actually starting to build your business there. The moment you decide that you want to leave, you get fired, or you don't want to be there anymore, guess what? When you go to the next dealership and you're hoping the grass is greener on the other side, what ends up happening is the fact that you start from ground zero again, right? And any of you guys who are newer in the business, you have to future pace and think about, okay, well, if I'm going to grow a sustainable business in car sales, that is a big threat. Bro, I could never imagine doing anything for a while and not having anything to show for it, because that's a scary ass reality. And a lot of people in car sales has actually gone through that, where you built up all of those sales, and guess what? It's gone in just a moment's notice. Poof, gone. All right, bro, you spent 10 years, 5-10 years building up that customer base, and all of a sudden you want to go to another dealership and it's fucking gone. And you sell a different brand now, so a lot of those customers are loyal to the brand, right? So they're not going to follow you over to that next dealership. And guess what? You're starting all over from scratch again. So owning the data, what does this allow you to do? Number one, it allows you to separate yourself fully from the dealership. And how do we collect and separate our own data? We use a CRM, right? So if you guys have been understanding, now you're getting your own leads and you have your own data storage, right? For your own clientele and for all the leads that you generate. And so what that allows you to do is build a customer base that is loyal to you, right? Not the dealership. So once you own the data, because you're paying for it, because you're in your own business, right? And you made that identity shift that you're willing to invest into your own business, your own marketing, everything like that. You own the data. So now you can grow your customer base 10 times faster. So imagine if you spend $1,000, got 100 leads. All you'd have to do is spend $10,000, and then you'd have and let's say you got a 5x ROI, you made 50 grand that year from the ads, but on top of that, you have 1,000 people in your fucking database. Excuse my language, but dude, just think about that for 1 second. Bro, you just made 10 years of progress in a year, right? Or even less time. If you wanted to spend that 10 grand and do it a lot faster, you could do that in 1 or 2 months. But then you can start to realize, okay, dang, you can really condense down the time of building your business, and it's up to you. You now have the control, right? And you're not having to build the business traditionally. So that's a completely different way to then do that. So once you do that, and you have a predictable, consistent process of lead generation, you're collecting your own data, and now you're retaining your clients. You have now you have your CRM working for you, where it's managing your relationships with your clients, building that relationship, and then after a while asking for referrals, so that now on both ends of the stick, you're getting new clients in through the door and you're keeping old clients, and then you're growing your database, right? Which is extremely important. And then so after you fix your lead problem, after you fix your data problem, and after you then start having the right type of you have your people getting referrals and buying from you again, and you're growing your database, your brand, so on and so forth. What happens is you start having what I call scaling issues, right? So when we talk to the guys that make 300 grand a year, so that make $500,000 a year, the restraint is no longer sales and leads, right? So then you need to actually start building and scaling a team so that you can have people on your team that allow you to grow and scale. So the two things that we've helped train in place are what we call BDC agents, right? So BDC agents are just the people that work your CRM and work on the opportunities that you have. And then we have an assistant, right? So an assistant is just somebody that's local that works all the deals for you, right? Gets all the paperwork, all the things that are necessary, brings up the cars, looks at your calendar, washes up the vehicle, brings it up to the front when it's ready to rock and roll. All you have to do is just worry about desking the opportunities and then just, getting to close the deal. So on a high level, that's how it works. So now you have a full-blown operation, right? So like as you continue to scale and grow your business, you then start reinvesting into it so that you can continue to grow and scale it. So that's what we call dealership arbitrage, because then now you have a mini business. And now you're actually leveraging the entire part of that business. And so when you think about it like this, there's a lot of benefits that come from being able to do this properly and having a system that's built out for you like this, okay? So on a high level, what that allows you to do is have leverage in your dealership. So what do I mean by having leverage? So now you're just not doing what everybody else is doing at the dealership. You're actually providing value, more value than anybody else at that dealership, because number one, bringing your own leads, closing your own deals, and generating opportunities in business and driving sales, right? Which is extremely valuable to the dealership owner. So obviously people are gonna catch on to that, but now you're a valuable asset. So what does this mean? Because you have your own data, because you have your own lead gen system, because you have your own database, this gives you leverage to then negotiate with management and the owner of the company. So what you do, and this is what my clients have done, is you go and speak to the actual owner and you're like, hey, listen, I want to have this schedule and I want to work on this pay plan. All right? And so they will start to be like, okay, well, on their end, they're like, they don't want to lose their top salesman. They don't want to lose somebody that's building and scaling their business. So what they're going to do is they're going to work with you and they're going to agree to it because they don't want to lose you, right? Because now you have leverage. And the other leverage point that you have is now because you own your own data and you have all that stuff, guess what you can go and do? You can go to any dealership in the entire state. Hell, you could even go to any dealership in the entire country and go sell cars at the highest level. So when you start to think about that, you're like, oh damn, well dude, that's how you can play the game? Well then it's basically a no-brainer. You can grow and scale it to your own capacity, and it's up to you how much you want to grow and scale. So yeah, a lot of guys in the business aren't aware of this. This is why I'm trying to get the word out there and bring this to people's attention, because it's one of the best business models that you could really start, and that's why I've been working with people on building their businesses and being able to actually help this idea really thrive, because it's a way different way of approaching the car business that I don't see a lot of people talk about, or I don't even think this is an idea yet, but I want to make it a thing. So yeah, basically, if you watched up until this point, I appreciate you for watching. If you want my help specifically, I have a link down below to book in a call with my team specifically. We can see if you're a good fit for somebody that we would like to scale with the dealership arbitrage model. And just to give you a high-level overview and glimpse, everything that I just talked about with the lead system, the CRM, growing and scaling, my team will do that for you. So yeah, if anything else, go ahead and click the link down below. We also have some other free trainings that you can go ahead and check out. I hope this video was valuable for you guys, but until the next time, I'll catch you guys in another YouTube video. Peace.